Good morning, Tahisha.
Good morning, Melonya. How are you?
Well, it's a bit of a day today. It's Friday. Yay. It's Friday.
Yes, it is. It is Friday. And I have to admit, we are late because it's my fault, basically. This is my fault.
It's her fault. It's her fault.
It's my
So what
fault.
do so what are you bringing to the table today?
Oh my gosh. I am bringing to the table. And I just want to say, you did say there was a lot of stuff that
Mm.
happened this week. There's a lot of stuff. I'm going to bring to the table something nebulous, fair weather friends. That can mean anything.
Huh.
Yeah.
I'm bringing to the table that in 2030, Black consumer power will rise to $1.7 trillion.
Oh
Yeah,
my goodness. I
yeah.
hope I'm a part of that. Wait, you said consumer power.
Consumer
Is that
buying
money?
power. Mhm.
That's not in credit right now.
So so let's talk about your fair weather friends, shall we?
Oh my goodness, fair weather friends. So this is a complicated topic because when I'm saying fair weather friends, really what I'm saying is this week we saw a lot of people come out and change their statements, their platforms, their ideas around the world. And a lot of this probably has to do with the new administration coming in. So, two things that I'm going to touch on, the big things. McDonald's and their, we are no longer going to be doing aspirational diversity. And what does that mean? What is aspirational diversity? And Meta's big, we're not going to be fact checking anymore. What does that mean for us as human beings on the Facebook, the Instagram, and they have WhatsApp too? So that's what I mean by fair weather friends. These groups that kind of shift, like businesses that shift wherever the weather is going to bring them. And that's how I see Meta and McDonald's, like it, honestly. So now I'm going to pause. Melania, thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny because part of our conversations today are really kind of intermingled. Um, I was looking at that same trend that is going on, and wanted to see what as a black person, what our buying collective buying power is, because there's a number of fair weather friends out there, and we'll talk about that. But I- what I have learned, and see, I might take a little heat for this today. But what
This
I
is unscripted conversation, folks who
it
are
is
watching.
it is unscripted conversation. But you what I'm really understanding over the last few years that one of the biggest challenges we face as a country is cowardice. Right. There are a
Mm.
lot of cowards in our world, in the United States. And because of cowardice, um, our values have that we have no values, right? There's no values. We can be bought, we can be sold, we can backtrack. We can do all of those things because people lack the spine to stand up for what is right. Right. And so, with McDonald's and Lowe's and Walmart and John Deere, and I'm just going to look at the other lists, Caterpillar, Polaris, Jack Daniels, right? All of these folks have reneged on their DEI support. My first instinct is that they never had it in the first place. It was performative, right? And so they're glad to be rid of it. But and that which leads into the next topic that I wanted to bring to the table. But I'm very much concerned about the fact that um, Fairweather Friends, CBS, paid what, 15 million to settle a lawsuit that Trump was bringing about, something that was reported, and it was a frivolous lawsuit, but they, kissed the ring. So in terms of our information, how we spend our money, I think we need to be more cognizant, right? We need to be, the fact that Meta no longer wants to fact check, right? Well, that tells you everything you need to know about the platform, in my opinion.
Well, it's a little bit more complicated than they don't want to fact check. So what they have, and some of it is how we get our information, right? So the big news is Meta's not fact checking anymore. But really what they're doing is moving towards a closer alignment to X, which is the idea that your social media users are going to flag inaccurate information, and they're going to report that, and then there's going to be this wonderful debate. And we're going to make a collective decision around, you know,
Facts.
facts, right? So the fact checkers that Meta got rid of, and they used to be on Twitter, or I think Twitter used to use them before they were X. So it was the agencies and the groups that they hire to actually do real fact checking. They've moved away from those contracts because, and this is where it gets like fair weather. There, like Zuckerberg has said that he thought maybe it had moved away from the intent of the social media platform, which was to connect people and to have unrestricted conversations, yada yada, to be more community. And on surface, like all things, it looks like a good idea, right? Like if we could collectively get together and say, like, ooh, like what is it about this statement that I don't like? Because some of it is like, some of it is hard, concrete facts, and some of it is what harms us, right? Like, what things would you report as being harmful information? And then, is the intent to be harmful? Is it not to be harmful? And some of the fact checking was done around that. And so this kind of really spoke to me because I do moderate someplace on a community site. And so it was interesting that they were moving away from this paid contract to like, now if I see something I don't think it's right, I'm going to just report it and then it's going to get debated. And that all sounds fine if you're really building community, but that's not really going to work in on this type of large platform. And there's already been reports that their fact checking did help people to kind of see when things weren't perhaps true. Like that warning that used to come up, or that did come up that said, this might not be based in fact. There was some kind of warning that Facebook used to put up, and Instagram also used to have it. And so the other part of me thinks about like the strictly business, right? If you're reporting a whole bunch of people or you're pulling a whole bunch of accounts because they're not, they're posting just for the clicks, because things aren't factual, get clicked, right? So if you're reporting a whole bunch of people and they're leaving the platform or they're doing whatever, it is sort of a move to increase your profit. And then if you're looking at an administration that did not share a lot of facts, it's a way to kind of get away and repartner with this incoming administration is my other thought. So that's why I'm thinking fair weather friends, because Meta was one of the holdouts when it came to still fact checking. There was this sort of thought that they serve so many people that they needed to check facts. But I do want to say, should social media platforms where it's people connecting, should they be held to the same standards as news outlets? Which is another question.
Well, here's the thing. You're asking, misinformation has never been more rampant. So you're asking the misinformed to weigh in on whether something is real or not, or true or not. And here's the other thing about that is that we have become allergic to the truth these days, right? And really, if something is repeated enough, people believe that is true, whether it is or not, right? And so, without guardrails of some sort to say, well, you know what, that's really wrong, right? It's not my opinion. It's not Tahitia's opinion. That fact is inaccurate, right? I believe that should be a part of these platforms to the extent that they can. There's millions and millions of people on them, and policing, and let me just put it this way too. So we talk about social media as if it's a community, right? Well,
Yes.
in real life community, there are folks that keep the standards, the rules, right?
But
They
do they though? Like, honestly, I want to have a real
Yeah,
conversation
I mean,
about, do people honestly keep
not
the
people. I'm
rules?
talking about there are things in place to make certain that people follow the rules, right? We have a justice system, we have police, we
But
have
is that but is that social conversation? So,
no.
like,
Well, it's community. What I'm saying is that if
but
you
is
want to
Facebook, as you said, community, or is it just a way to socialize?
it's on one, it's community when it's convenient to be community, right?
Mm.
You said, you mentioned community
Mhm.
when you first talked about this. So in community, there are, certain agreements, there are safeguards to keep people safe in community, right? But at the end of the day, we all can make a decision, right? We all have a choice to say, I don't, we weren't born attached to social media. It is a phenomena that has happened within my lifetime. I live quite well without social media, and there's many people who have been on social media and have decided that they're not doing it anymore. The science tells us that it's not really good for our well-being. We're mined for our information to be
Mhm.
exploited so that we can become bigger consumers, right? That was the whole intent of Facebook to begin with. Facebook was not about creating a social community. It was about a way to exploit us from the very beginning.
So then, since you mentioned that, maybe they're just returning, as he said, to their principles, which was, we
They
need to
had
mine
no
you for
principles.
information at, well, for a brief period of time. I only say that because I worked with an app that would get kicked off of Facebook, or not allowed to promote on Facebook, because of the type of information and the fact checking and the things that we had to do to get on there. So, it like, if it really is just for socializing, right? Then I do sort of think to myself, well, how much weight do we put to Facebook? How much weight do we put to X? Like, tons of businesses and tons of leaders and influencers go on these social networks and tell groups of people how they should think. But the truth is, Facebook, X, LinkedIn, none of these places are news outlets. None of these places say that their job is to give us the facts, to give us information. They were really meant to network. Networking is not anything fact based, right? They're meant to network and socialize. So the idea of, should we regulate socializing, is an interesting concept. Like, have we put too much weight to these things? Like, I hear my mother say to me all the time, well, I read it on Facebook. And I constantly say to her, Facebook is not a source of news. And Instagram, well, I saw it on Instagram. It's not a source of news. None of these are news sources. But I do get why people trust them, because many of our news outlets have accounts on these social media sites. And so there's this mixing of, like, what is someone who, or a group that might be able to give you some factual information, and just like Bob the Builder, right, just telling you whatever social media, and you're like, oh, he's on the same platform as, MSN or the Times or Fox News. I'll name them all. Like, it's interesting because I can get why people get confused. If someone has 2 million followers, and they're saying something and they're on the same platform as a news outlet, it does give false weight to what that person is saying. Should people just simply start saying, look, it's a social media outlet, it's just for socializing, don't get any facts from any of these things, and if you want news, go to a news outlet. And what are the news outlets that you can go to get news?
Well, that's all well and good until you have social media sites impacting our elections.
Hmm.
When that happens, now we've moved into a different realm. When there are folks who are using the platforms to derail our elections, now we've moved into something. It's not social. It's not lighthearted. It is intentional, right? And there are those who are intentionally spreading false information to divide this country. So I think, there's that saying, too much has been given, much is expected.
Hmm.
These social media outlets have been given a great deal of financial benefit from these platforms. They have been given a power to shape our thoughts, our election outcomes, and the access that folks have to get to us to make us larger consumers. So with that kind of power, there should be some responsibility, right? In my opinion, that's my opinion, because people like your mom and like many other people look at what is being said. And again, when it is parroted over and over again or recycled over and over again, people then begin to believe that those things, whether they're true or not, are true. And that is a problem.
But I find it interesting how much weight we have given X and Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all of these social media platforms to influence important pieces in our life. No one has ever said, at least in a conversation that I've had, so outside in the real world, in the IRL, you know what? I got my best news from the Cartoon Network this morning and it was fantastic. And I went on their site and it was great. No one has ever said, you know what? The other day I was talking with my dog and he gave me information. These types of things we don't count as weighted, like having any weight, right? Those would be, someone would be like, what has she been drinking? What has she been smoking? Has she switched over her weed, right? No. But if I say something like, well, I was on LinkedIn and I read this article on LinkedIn that someone posted, someone would go, oh, yeah, well, what's the link to that? Or if I said, oh, I saw something on Facebook, I send you things on Instagram that are funny all the time, right? That have a little modicum of truth to them. Why do we let it have that much weight?
Well,
When
because
seriously,
because
it's
people are
not.
sharing information, right? They're sharing information. I mean, what we're doing is sharing information via these sites, right? And so I wouldn't look for the Cartoon Network for information because it is not a place where I would receive information. But when you go to
It's on the
LinkedIn,
same level, though.
I don't think
It's
that's true.
entertainment.
I,
Social media is entertainment,
Well,
and
look at it.
really, as a
Look, I'm a
society, we
thinking
have to
human.
say
But wait a minute.
it's
I'm a
entertainment.
thinking human, right? So I
Yes,
understand the place of social media. Okay. I don't necessarily believe that other folks, I think there is a large swath of people who don't make that distinction. And because we know they don't make that distinction, should there be guardrails in place? I don't look for social media for my information or for my news. In fact, I fact check people all the time. I'll see something and I'll go, that is just horse shit, okay? And let me go and find it, and then I find the link and I put it in their thing and go, you know what? Here's the, this is debunked, and so and what I also do in a time that we're moving into, and also, you know what? This is, let's really get real about this, Tahisha. It is behooving to Zuckerberg, who had a contentious relationship with Trump, who talked about him being jailed at some point, right? To go and to lower the standard so that misinformation can flourish, right? Because when there's misinformation and confusion, the masses are not paying attention to what really is going on. And I believe that Mark Zuckerberg has entered that room and is a part of that, all of
Yeah, which
that
is why I say
militia.
he's fair weather.
Yeah, well, but he's never been our friend. But that being said, I do believe that there is. I don't. Again, I don't look for Facebook for news or any place else. For news. But again, we news these days. There's no pipeline to news that is reliable, that everybody feeds into at this
And
point.
And that is what I think is the bigger issue, is that there is no most people don't trust any of the news outlets, right? People will tell you, like, I don't trust that the news is unbiased. So it does make sense that all of a sudden, if social media, or not all of a sudden, but if social media is just as muddy looking and just as news looking as what would have been traditional news outlets, why people are getting their news there. Where I think we have a true situation globally is that social media has been elevated to the same level as traditional news outlets and where you get information and where you would expect to get information. We have government agencies with social media accounts where you can go and get information. It has, as you said, because it's become so muddy, it does need some guardrails. But if its true intent was just social media to socialize and to network, then perhaps we need to re-educate the public on what exactly
And
is
who's
social
going to
media,
do that?
what is
Well,
networking.
who's going to educate the public on that, really? So
We
okay.
have government bodies that put out public health
Yeah,
warnings.
yeah, and
And
they
in my mind, social media is a public health crisis because, as you said, it mines our data. It says stuff over and over again. It sways our
Well,
opinion.
okay. So taking on what you said. So Meta said, okay, we're not going to fact check anymore. They
Hmm.
also did they say that, but we're going to turn our efforts towards educating people to understand that this platform is not about news, it's about this, and not to look for this platform or for news. No. So what it's doing is taking the
I don't know.
safeguard.
Maybe they'll reach out to us and they will let
They
us
will
be in
not.
charge of it.
Mm-mm. No,
This
you
is a
know what?
call to Mark.
No,
Is
no.
that his name? I don't even know.
Oh,
Zuckerberg.
uh,
If he
uh,
wants to hire Melania, she's very excited today.
yeah, you know what? I'm very disappointed, to be really honest with you,
I mean, who
because,
isn't?
I mean, in a time that we just know that facts will become fiction, right? That any safeguard is better than none, right? And again, and not pushing any particular product, but that's one of the reasons why I personally signed up for Ground News, which will and Ground News is a news platform that will look at a story and tell you where the bias is, or if there's any bias. You can clearly see, oh, this bias, this story leans towards the left, it leans towards the right, or actually it's equally distributed. It'll show you how many stories have been written on a topic, And it also talks about blind spots, things that the corporate news aren't covering, right? And for me, that gives me a little bit more um, uh, ability to look at a story more objectively and to see how it's being covered. Oh, this coverage is being covered by the right, no coverage on the left. Oh, this is only being covered by the left, no coverage on the right. So people can start to see, because how we're being manipulated, and then be able to figure out what is, get a more clear idea of what is actually happening, and how it's being reported. I never look for social media for information on what is vital, right, or news, but there's a lot of people who do, and that's the problem.
And that's the problem. So and I don't disagree with you necessarily. The only my big opinion on this, or at least the
But
social
you're
media
right, though.
part of
You're
it
you're
is, yeah.
you're right in the sense that no, it was never. It was, the premise was that this was going to be social, right? That
Yeah.
you would you would connect with friends, and share, stories and pictures and information or whatever. And again, it was not formed to be a source of pertinent information for
Yes.
people.
Like, when it came to news, it was probably meant to be more like an argument at the Thanksgiving table, right? Where everybody's got a different opinion, or a butthole, right? Like, and no one can agree. And some of it is shit.
Yes.
Um, but unfortunately, it's going to this larger mass of people. Like, I don't think that anyone imagined that average folk would have millions of followers. That, like, when it comes to the information being shared and the misinformation, right? Misinformation about how to lose weight, misinformation about, like, even medications, like people, celebrities, causes of fire, is there aliens, right? All of these things. But if this was just a conversation at the Thanksgiving table, like, maybe he originally intended, or a way for people to network, all of these things would probably show up. And someone would be like, so and so doesn't know what they're talking about. And we would be fine with that. But, you know, people are viewing it as news, and it's not news. Even LinkedIn is not news, right? Like, I love LinkedIn. I
You
think
know
get a
what?
lot of information about LinkedIn, like from LinkedIn, but a lot of it is very biased opinions. And we all forget about the algorithm with social media. It's going to route you and tell you what you click on because it wants to keep you in there. So it should come with a warning like alcohol. This may impact your brain and cause patches to just disappear. And it may cause you to buy crap you don't need. I would love a social media warning on all the platforms. Like health industries, we should get together and put that on there because we do know that it is harming people. Uh,
Have
Back to
you
your Florida discussion last week, which was warnings for young people, right? So why doesn't it?
Because they don't care. They don't
So
care as long as you are addicted and you keep, checking your phone and your computer.
imagine if that popped up every time you opened your social media.
Yeah,
This product may cause brain death.
right. They should. Now, to see, if you want to get rid of the safeguards of fact checking, put that disclaimer on there. You're going to do that,
Exactly.
Facebook? Hello, Facebook? Could you do that?
And X, like, no, we don't fact
All of
check, but
them.
we do know this may cause brain drain.
Yes, and for sure. Have you
Definitely.
heard about the new platform that is being
Blue
developed by?
sky?
No, actually
No. Okay.
it's called Fanbase, and it
Fan
is
base.
Fanbase is a,
Is that
a
like OnlyFans?
no,
No.
it's 20
Okay.
it was formed in 2018 by Isaac Hayes. Some folks might know Isaac Hayes as the voice
Is
of
he gonna sing a song to me?
no, Isaac Hayes' son, his
Mm.
son. And folks who
Why are you
might not
tricking
know
me?
Isaac Hayes was a musician, and the voice of on South Park of Chef on South Park, right? You
That
might know
you
that, but
I
but
know
his
him as a sexy voice, and when
yes,
he became the chef, I was like, this is
but he was funny as
interesting."
hell.
It was
He
very
was
funny.
hysterical. But his son has started a platform called Fanbase, a social media platform, and it's really interesting because he's setting it up kind of to be like sort of like a new television, so to
Hmm,
speak, in terms of you know, sort of having our artistic bent to it. I've started investigating it. I'm not real into it. I don't want to misrepresent it, but it's growing in its popularity, and he's fundraising as well. I think he's raised like $10 million, or more for this platform. So there's a new platform out there, folks. If you don't know about it, you might want to check it out. Yeah, I personally, I think that we all would benefit from being a lot more particular in our social media, what we follow, and I mean, I remember talking to a friend and colleague some years ago, and I realized that he got most of his information from Reddit.
right?
And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, you know,
I
that's
see a
not
lot of
news.
stuff on Quora, but I'm like,
Right,
"Huh."
Cora and Reddit. I was like,
Yeah.
that's not news. That's not news.
Which, since you mentioned it, they both are kind of like they're communities that kind of like answer. Like you pop something up there, they give you an answer. Half the time it's not right. Like I look at it and I'm like, that's not actually how healthcare works. But yes, like especially all questions about nurses, like there'll be a question up there and it'll say, like, my nurse wrote this in my chart. Is that like, just like things that I'm like, that doesn't work like that. And someone will write back and say, like, yes, that's total truth, and everybody will agree. And I'm like, I'm not going to weigh in because they're going to yell at me. But this is the society we're moving towards. But when I think about history, right? They say history is written by the winners, and I would also say that history and fact now is written by the loudest voice. Right?
Yeah.
Like, who did Time have on their cover as Man of the Year? I'm just saying.
Was that crickets?
Crickets, crickets. No.
Yeah.
But anywho, a fact is obviously just what the general public thinks it
No,
is.
it's not. It is not. And as a person who appreciates facts
I
and
mean, I'm sure we could
information,
do a poll. Like, honestly, it could be a win-win. I just want to throw this out there for everybody who's sort of upset that, oh my gosh, this is a win for Trump. It could be a win for other groups that if they want to lean into, like, not really sharing facts, like we can also share not facts. I make fantastic not true facts all the time.
no. You know what? Years
You don't wanna
ago,
play that way?
no. Mm-mm. What's that? That's that saying,
You get a Michelle Obama when
no,
they
play
go,
stupid games, win stupid prizes, right? No, you know what? I
"The
remember.
stupid people are winning, though, really good
But
prizes."
here's the thing. I realized this many years ago. When there is no trust, there's only chaos, right? When you can trust nothing, the result of that is chaos. And so anything, a platform, these behemoth platforms, social media platforms that have so much influence on us, when those environments are just chaos, are filled with untruths, right, and misinformation, the result is just going to be chaos. So, welcome to the dystopia. I'm
But
tired
what
today. I
what
don't know. I'm usually try to be the half glass, half full kind of gal. Rainbows at the end of, yeah. The pot of gold is filled with poop. No, don't. don't. Mm-mm. Yeah. Mm-mm. I don't know if I have much faith in humanity on this Friday. I just said it. Somebody had to.
You know, I like so I have to say uh, you text me. You were like, "I don't know what I'm going to talk about this Friday. There's just so much stuff." And so like when I we made our announcements of what we were talking about, I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're not talking about any of the like the big things cuz like I want to say every 5 seconds this week because I subscribe to the New York Times, and I'm just going to say it, New York Times, you're biased in a way. Like, if you don't know the way they're biased, they're biased. But every 5 seconds, it felt like it was like breaking news. California's on fire. More
Wow.
of California's on fire. Breaking news in the Northeast. You're going to die of freezing temperatures this weekend. Very afraid of that. I live in the Northeast. Breaking news: the Trump will be sentenced. Breaking like every breaking news: Canada. Canadian Prime Minister states he's resigning. Breaking news: Canadian Prime Minister says talks of making Canada next state are just spitballing by Trump to distract us from tariffs. Breaking news: Mexico and the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico. Breaking news. Like, I was like, what else is breaking?
Why am
But
I
I was
exhausted?
breaking. Yes, I was so tired because I was like, what emergency are we in now? I was waiting for it to say breaking news: the drones were aliens and New Jerseyans actually are aliens. Like, I was waiting for that. Like, the news was just a constant cycle of like, what else is gonna break? But I do want to say of the big news topics, like the prime minister like him leaving did make me a little sad. Not for the
Yeah,
reason it did, because
because
he's
cute,
handsome. He's
because
not
cute,
great.
because cute
He's
just left
not
the stage.
fantastic,
Right?
but I do like to look at some cuteness every once in a
Yeah.
while. I will say cute politicians, you have me all the time, like adorable little cute politicians. Like they kind of like, break up the monotony of certain things. Um AOC, love her. She's adorable. Love to watch her, love to see her.
And see, this is why we are doomed.
This is why we're doomed. Because I'm tuning in for the nonsense. I tell you that all the time. In the background, I'm actually tuning in for nonsense. I am. I'm tuning in to watch like if I'm watching politics, it's to see people fight with each other. Like when they fight, like when our politicians fight, love it. Any clip of someone calling out another politician in like a very not political way, like in a very like no respect way, I'm like, yes. See, politicians are just like us, shitheads.
No, they're no, yeah, I'm trying to find hope for humanity. There's a game called, what is it? Something of humanity. Not crimes. I forgot. Yeah, I can't remember the name.
Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Play it all the time.
I'm playing the game Hope for Humanity.
Hope for
I'm trying to find some hope for
I
humanity.
play I like that in Dumb Ways to Die.
Yeah. Well, I brought to the table the idea of and it was really brought because of our fair weather friends, right? I've had some really I had to take some folks to school on LinkedIn this week who oh, of course,
Yeah.
because show me you're a racist without telling me you're a racist,
Listen,
right?
if we were more tech savvy, we would show you who she took to school, but we're not.
No, it's not a matter of that. I'm not trying to call anybody out.
I would. I'm
No,
petty like
I
that.
did. I did
I've
on a
decided.
social media site where they, made, their comments. But, it really made me stop to think about, the Walmarts, the Lowe's, the John Deere's.
Lowe's is so sad because like there's Lowe's and there's Home Depot, right? And then there's another one. I think it's I don't know. I can't Is there a home improvement store that is not
Yeah, it's called, well, here's the thing. What I'm getting at
maybe
is
Ace? I don't
what
know.
I'm getting at is this. is that and then you stop to think about folks like Jeff Bezos, who and what his ideology is and how he treats his employees, and the power that he's going to have in our upcoming um, uh, world and politics. And you start to look at these conglomerates, right, and who are showing us and telling us that they have no, interest in creating a diverse, equitable, equal workplace. And really, what we're talking about when we start talking about DEI, and this is your wheelhouse, we're not talking about merit. I love when folks say merit
Oh my
because
gosh, I'm gonna pause for a second,
I'm.
because we did have a bunch of comments come through
Oh, okay.
from, Hannah. Yay, Hannah. Hi,
Hi,
Hannah.
Hannah.
Melania, can you see these? She
Mm-mm.
was mentioning Cars Against Milan okay, um, here we go.
They, they should make that a spinoff for Hope for Humanity, the card game. They should. Cards Against Humanity. Yes. Hitler was also a person of the year back in 1940s. Woo-hoo. Okay,
Ooh,
Hannah.
Hannah,
Okay.
Hannah, Hannah.
Oh, Ground News. It's a website. It is a subscription-based platform for news. You can get an app on it for on your phone. You can access it, on your computer, laptops, or whatever. I recommend it not because I'm getting paid by them, but I recommend anybody sharing credible news sources. And here's the other thing too, is we just falling back a little bit to the platforms, these social media platforms. What I do encourage people to do in this world where there are no guardrails is when you post something as a fact, put the source in so people can go to the source, right?
Which is such amazing and wonderful advice. But there was a part of me, I'm gonna be honest, because like I was like, yay, now I don't have to put sources. I can just, which is why, like, yes, guardrails
I
are
don't even know
fantastic.
if I know who you
You're like,
are.
I don't even know if I know who you are. But obviously, I have real sources because, like, I'm doing research all the time. But I did have this moment where I was like, yay, I don't have to keep any references. I was like, I can go back to high school, freshman year, when you wrote a paper and you were like, it came from the newspaper and you didn't even put where it was. I felt like that. So, anywho,
Mm, mm, mm.
and now I got shamed. I got shamed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good, good, good that you got shame. Shame on all of you. No, but I do. I no. I do encourage folks to put their resources right so that people can go and read for themselves. I think one of the things that we have become, and I don't think, and I was having this conversation the other day, that I don't think that we can be Monday morning quarterbacks anymore, right? Watching the world go by and then having commentary. I think that really, if we're interested in having a society that is a healthy society, a psychologically safe society, a society that is not steeped in chaos, it means that we have to be more active. And it means that you have to do some work. And for many of us, that has not been a part of our lives. We have been able to sit and watch the democracy, chug along, thinking naively that its momentum and the system would just keep going on forever. And we're at a place where that is not necessarily a guarantee. And because we have these huge platforms, I think it's a great time for us to to be a bit more particular and to do some homework and to if you want me to be a fact finder, I will. But my instinct is you know to use social media for my own promotion Okay. I'm gonna be
Well,
honest.
yeah, we're being transparent, right? So
Right.
we're on here trying to promote ourselves, right? So,
Right.
but I don't see it. I do see it as networking and socializing the platforms that we're on. But you mentioned something interesting, and so I wonder, and this is like to anyone listening or anyone watching in the after the live, I think it might be fun to get together with some people, to invite some people, not to an MT Fridays, but to a collaborative connection to how do we fight within the guidelines of these new social media platforms? Because there are disruptive ways to kind of work within the confines of a group and make them see perhaps that fact checking might be a nice thing to do. What are some ways that we can work within systems to stop being Monday morning quarterbacks in our political system, our government, our regulatory bodies? What can we do? And maybe that's a discussion on LinkedIn, and maybe it's a get together on LinkedIn. What can we do moving forward in 2025? If you're an anti-capitalist entrepreneur, if you are a fact checking business owner, if you are just a person who wants to do something on these social media platforms in a way that is not, horrific. So that might be an interesting conversation to have in community. I'm not saying it's going to happen, I'm throwing it out there. If anybody wants it, comment and we'll try to pull something together. Melania's eyes say no. Melania's eyes
No,
say no.
you know what? My heart is saying that we need to unplug.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no better message than for the traffic on these websites to grind to a halt,
But mm,
because then we're not
didn't we
fulfilling
do
their.
that at one point and it just became something that was like
Well, then it doesn't.
catchy? Yeah, it
Then it
doesn't count.
does. It doesn't. They're not able to meet their objective, and that is to sell to us and to take our information and sell it to those people who are going to sell to us, right? I mean, it's really not that. It's not. It's not that. What? I'll be honest with you. When you're scrolling through these social media sites, right? After a while, um, you know that's a great question, Tahisha. Proactive, community oriented, how to get it done. Yeah, again, for me, I think that when they no longer have access to you, then they start to understand what your needs are.
Mm. But is that realistic, right? Like,
Well, is it
are we
no?
all gonna pull off Instagram? Like, is there a way that we can create a template for those of us who want to, like, because, like, honestly, is there a way that we can do it? Can we and Hannah's asking some great questions. Can we unplug? And if you're unplugging, like, where would you unplug from? Where, because I would say that many of us probably are on, I've talked about this with you, we're probably on too many social media outlets too. Like, what do we need? What is positive? What is not? I'm not really on X because I don't really feel the pull there. And I also really don't like the vibe there. But I do know that a lot of leadership, a lot of government leaders, a lot of nonprofit groups are still on X, right? And so what is LinkedIn now, right? What is Instagram? What is Blue Sky? What are all these different platforms that are out there? And how do you because if you're not on social media as a small business owner, it's almost like you're falling behind instantaneously. Like my son who's in college has over 1,000 followers, which, as he told me, is nothing. Um, in my mind, I was like, "That's a lot," right? Like, our mindset around what social media is so varied, and so how do we make this a positive experience? I don't know. I'm spitballing. It's always unscripted here.
Hannah said, do the work and unplug. Yeah, I think that first of all, there's life outside of our computers, right? And you know, we spend so much time on social
It
media.
comes with me everywhere now. It's
Mhm.
it has a holder so I can make sure I don't drop it in the toilet.
Mhm. Well,
Yeah.
you know, they're called social media sites, but you know, again, and I'll say it as long as it's true. You know, the people feeling isolated and the former general surgeon general talked about the the health risk of us being, you know, not engaged and not having real connection, right? So we know that social media, despite the word social, is not really connecting us in a way that really feeds our hearts and our minds. We know this, right? It is something that mostly steals our time, right? When we could be doing something that actually enriches us, whether that be a hobby, whether that means actually meeting people in real life, whether that means, you know, doing things that are really important to us. So I think that it's really important for all of us potentially to just look to see what value does social media bring to you, and how much time are you spending on it, and what detriment is it also bringing to you. Oftentimes what we're seeing is, you know, curated experiences by people. You're seeing the best parts of them, or what they want you to see, right? Which gives you the, you know, FOMO, fear of missing out, or inadequacy, feelings of inadequacy, and all sorts of other things that are detrimental. We know for a fact that it's detrimental to the well-being, psychological well-being of young people, right? We know this about social media. So I think that it's incumbent upon us, if we want to be a healthy society, to look at our social media usage and decide, is it serving me, or am I serving it, right? It steals our time. I feel that to my core. Thank you, Hannah. And it does. It,
So I'm gonna throw this out there. Anyone who wants to get with Melonya and I, and Melonya, I'm gonna force you to do this, to work on and to help us to throw something out there that is a social media and detox event. So, what I would love us to pull together, because I think we can do it, Melania, I think we can do it, how to detox from social media while still networking.
well, you know what it is then you're moving with a purpose. Like what every January
Don't
is.
give it all away.
No, no, but I mean, but dry, you know, there's dry Januaries, right, where people, you know, you know, stop drinking, you know, during the month of January. Well, maybe there's dry social media, you know, times or whatever. Here's the thing: social media is a tool,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
It's so I think a part of that too is deciding what, you know, if you are a business owner, you know what, you know what, or not even just a business owner, if you have some things that you want to say, then do that. Use it as such. Use it the way that you want to use it. I'm not here to tell people how they should be using social media. But I'm also saying to folks, don't become a victim of social media, right? And that's kind of what we, to some extent, we all are.
And I've seen a lot of benefits to social media and found communities that I wouldn't have had access to, especially as a queer, Black, autistic woman, right? Like I belong to lots of, on Facebook, autistic groups for women with autism, or parents who are also autistic and have autistic kids. Like those type of niche community groups, I would not have been able to have access to in my general um, area. So that has been great. However, I will say there is a lot of misinformation that flies about in all of these types of groups, right? But I, I, I think about that exactly like you think about fact checking, right? Whenever I'm in those groups, I honestly think to myself, um, is this true? Does this sound true? Does this sound real? Is this great advice? And I always double check it. But I double check advice I get from everyone, right? Like, who doesn't? My mom will say to me, like, oh, drink like a whole bottle of apple cider vinegar and that will cure everything, right? If I did that on my all of the coating on my teeth would fall off, right? And my stomach would burn. Like, check what people tell you. Like, I always check advice that people give me before I follow it because some of the advice is just, it sounds wild. And sometimes I'll find out it's great advice. Great advice.
Hannah said, social media, sign me up for the social media detox versus networking event. I love that. I love that idea. Social media detox versus networking. I believe in networking.
I
Um,
do too.
I believe, I think that here's the thing, and let me clarify this. I think that social media is a powerful tool. I
Very
always
powerful.
have. But I've also been disappointed in terms of how we have utilized that tool. And what made me so aware of it, I think some many years ago, I think there was unrest in, it might have been in Egypt. I can't remember. I can't remember the Middle Eastern country that was going through unrest. But what really, and they were in a regime where information could not flow freely, but they were using social media for their freedom. They were using it to get the word out outside of their country as to what was going on, and they were using it in a powerful way. I remember this one particular um, uh, uh, scene. It was of a young girl who was protesting and she was shot. And we were there with her in her final moments. Right. And I realized at that moment, this is such a powerful platform for sharing real information. Right. And but that's not what we're doing with it. And so I do see the benefit that could be social media, but I don't think that we're meeting that measure.
Well, and I think also, if you watch any of the documentaries about social media and its rise and, where we are with social media today, really, we have not had as many campaigns about the impact of social media on our social systems as we have about other things, such as television, right? I remember watching commercials on television about not watching television, right? Do you remember these? Like the bad sides of television and like those little, like Saturday morning cartoon things that would come on, like, oh, you don't want to be a couch potato, right? Do you remember those? Like, so I don't know if you remember those. Anywho, but they were sort of like limit your TV time. Like, people turned off their TV around 10 o'clock, and your parents knew you had to come back in the house because that was when they realized you weren't in the house. It's 10 o'clock. You're going to turn off your TV because there's no more TV, right? There's no more programming. But we don't do that with social media, which is why I mentioned the warnings and mentioned the like, maybe we should have more education around the fact that we talk about unplugging and we talk about screen time, but screen time should include television, social media, this time that we're having right now. Like all of this impacts how we interact with each other in real time, right? So why aren't we talking more about that with the public? Because we do have a rise in loneliness. And I know myself when I'm out in public, I have these moments where I'm like, how do I socialize not with a screen? I can't I can't parse my words like I would if I were chatting with you on some type of post. So maybe we should be doing more education. I'm for doing more education, more warnings about the impact of social media and how to choose, like exactly what you're saying, very purposeful social media. And I tried to detox from TV. That was won't even say what happened with that. We all know what happened with that. But it is something worth doing and something really having conversations about, particularly as we move away from fact checking, right? It should just be viewed as entertainment at this point. We're not going to fact check in a way that is a regulatory way, right? External parties, then we might as well see it as sheer entertainment. And how much entertainment do you need?
Well, yeah, how much entertainment do you need? Well, we're at almost at the top of
We
our
are.
hour. Yeah.
We did not get to talk about your $1 trillion worth of money.
Well,
I just want to say, just say it one more time. So advertisers and marketers and $1 trillion.
really, I'm really not looking at the marketers and them. I'm looking at Black folks, right? You $1.7 trillion. The economies of the GDPs of Canada. There's a list, right? There is a list that it is a tremendous amount of buying power, right? And I think it was three countries: Canada, Italy, and I forgot the third. What I'm saying is that in many Black communities, they're food deserts, they're shopping deserts, and still, we're spending that kind of money. What happens when a lot of that money comes out of the economy? In a capitalist society, money is power, right? And so that's a whole lot of cheddar, right?
It is a whole lot of cheddar.
And so what should we do with it? As opposed to supporting organizations that don't believe that you should have an equitable, diverse, and equal opportunity within these billion-dollar industries. So that was my take on it. But we are at time. How much entertainment do you need? I'm walking away thinking about that today. Thanks for letting me blow up and comment on this chat. Thank you, Hannah, for joining us today and offering your insightful commentary. Folks, follow us on our social media streams. Don't forget to leave comments. And if you've got a bright idea, because I love that idea about social media detox versus networking, right?
Yes.
Yes, I
And
love
you
that.
know what, Melania? I say we work on that, pull that together as a love note in February for anybody who wants to come participate with us, as our loving gift to you. In the month of February. If you want to join that, if you want to be a part of that, send us a DM, as the kids say. But not a nasty, weird one. Okay, Instagram. I'm not a sugar mama. I get those sometimes. It's shocking. I have no money.
Okay, folks.
More than you wanted to know.
Always. All right. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today, Tahitia. As always, we are fighting the brain drain, one unscripted conversation at a time. Visit us next Friday. We'll be here on time.
Thanks for joining us on
ya.
MT Fridays. If you
Bye.
enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to like, subscribe, and share for more insightful discussions every Friday. Remember, the brain drain stops here, so keep the conversation going by connecting with us on social media or visiting our website. Until next time, stay curious and keep filling your mind with knowledge. See you next week, Friday, on MT Fridays.